Hiya guys, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Smurfs and boosters in Dota 2 and what we can do about them. More specifically, what Valve can do about them. But before we discuss that, we need to establish exactly what are Smurfs and boosters. A Smurf is someone who makes a new account in order to get into lower skill brackets. This allows them to absolutely stomp games. So as we see in this example here, we have someone who's made a new account and is completely dominating games, and they just have insane stats. These are not the stats of a new player. A new player will not play that well. There is simply no way. And they're just trying to abuse the matchmaking system in order to get easier games, and this also ruins games for other people. The question is, how do we stop this? Here we have what a Smurf wants. A Smurf wants to play versus weaker players and to stomp in easy games as opposed to playing in their real skill bracket. This means they want to be calibrated low in MMR so that they can prey upon the weaker players. And then we have boosters. These want to climb quickly by playing in the higher brackets as opposed to grinding their way through the lower skill brackets. This means they want to be calibrated high in MMR. This is why we can't just make everyone calibrate at high MMR, because we lose Smurfs and then we gain boosters. This leads to this really complex problem of Smurfs always being able to calibrate low if they want to by deliberately playing bad and then playing well in order to stomp, or boosters who will just get the easiest calibration of their lives. And there are several problems. A big problem is that Turbo counts towards matches required to play ranked. You have to play a certain amount of matches, and Turbo is a faster game mode that counts. This is convenient for Smurfs and boosters because they need to play for less total time before they have an account that's ready to grind ranked. This shouldn't be the case. This is step one that Valve could do. They could just make Turbo not count. They added in phone numbers required in order to play ranked, which is a minor inconvenience, but it had a minimal dent on the problem, and Smurfs and boosters are still absolutely rife because a phone number is extremely cheap. As well as this, we could do something, for example, like region locking accounts. And by this, I don't mean that you have to play with people in a set region. That wouldn't be the case. It would be if an account is detected used from another region, then it would get locked until that owner had proven that they had actually moved regions. This means that account sellers, which are what boosters do usually, they will not be able to just sell accounts to random people across the globe. They will either have to A, sell their accounts to people locally, so that would be if they had a German booster, that German booster would have to sell the account to someone in Germany, which is a massive inconvenience, or alternatively they would have to come up with some sort of fake proof in order to show that they had quote-unquote moved regions. So if they wanted to sell their account to someone in Russia or the UK or NA, then they would have to come up with something pretty clever. The problem with this, of course, is that this requires constant monitoring by Valve, which, as we know, Valve will just not do. My proposed solution is to completely break apart boosting before we focus on smurfing. Boosters primarily do it to sell accounts, and this is why this needs to stop. You'll see up here that I will easily find a boosting service simply by typing in something as simple as Dota 2 buy an account, or Dota 2 boosting services. There are people with Steam accounts that literally say, I offer boosting services, contact blah blah blah. This is the problem. If Valve can crack down on these boosting sites, if they can dismantle them and take them down, boosters will be so inconvenienced, there'll be far less of them and the community will be much better for it. And then, once that's done, Valve can start focusing on Smurfs. And there's many ways to easily inconvenience Smurfs, and by inconveniencing them, you make it less worth their while, and less will do it. Now, of course, it's completely ridiculous to think that you could ever completely 100% stamp out Smurfing, because there's always going to be some twat that just wants to do it. But they can do things like make you require a phone number, make you have an email account attached to your Steam account for, I don't know, let's say 2 months. And then every Smurf account is delayed by 2 months, so they've got to sit there and make a bunch of them, or they'll just not think of that and they'll just make a new one and it'll take them forever. They could also increase the amount of matches required, because a new player doesn't need to play only 200 matches. A new player can easily play 200, 300, 400, as many as needed really, in order to discourage smurfing, because there's no particular rush. They could remove turbo games from counting. There's a lot of different things they could do, and they could just improve smurf detection, because there is no new player out there that's going to have a 60 or 70% win rate, that's going to have 500 GPM, that's going to get 300 last hits in a 30-minute game. It's not going to happen for a new player. There's so many things Valve could do, and once they crack down on this boosting bullshit, they can deal with the Smurfs. Thank you very much for watching. Okay, so I'm tacking this on to the end because I'm just looking through a random link here. And we've got ready for calibration accounts for $5 each, which presumably are accounts intended to already be ready to go for ranked. Accounts have a virtual number so you can start to play ranked instantly after the deal. Lovely. What else have we got? We've got a Divine 5 5400 solo MMR, $50. That's fairly cheap considering. We've got Ancient 5 4100 for $10. That's fuck all. That's a lot of games to ruin on the way up and down. So imagine a 2K player buys that account because they're like, hey, I deserve more MMR than this. It's my team holding me back, not my own lack of skill. He gets this account, and let's assume he loses 70% of his matches. So if you were to lose 100%, you would drop 250 MMR every 10 games. So it would take 10, 40, 80 to drop down to 2000 MMR, and then assuming we would win 30%, we tack on another 30%, so we're looking at about 100 games or so to get back to 2k MMR. That's a lot of games to be ruined. We've got 1 to 1500 solo MMR for $10.69, so $11 for the sake of arguments. You just buy a 1 or 1000 MMR account and just stomp your way up to what, 4K or whatever it is. That's just a lot of fucking games. This is absolutely fucking disgusting. Valve, fix your bullshit.